In this lecture, we'll discuss about cell cycle. Cell cycle or the cell division cycle. This is a series of events taking place in a cell. A series of events that take place one after the other in a cell that causes a mature cell to divide into two daughter cells. The cell cycle include duplication of its DNA, which is called DNA replication, and there will be division of its organelles, and further there will be division of its cytoplasm, chromosomes and other components, whereby a single cell will be divided into two daughter cells which are identical to each other. So here you can see the image, the figure showing the various stages, the phases in the cell division, which includes G0 phase, G1 phase, S phase, then G2 phase and M phase. We'll discuss each of it. The phases of the cell cycle. The cell cycle consists of mainly 4 phases, or rather 5 phases: G0 phase, G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase. All these phases collectively is called interphase. And the last phase is M phase, mitosis and cytokinesis phase. So you can see that here G0, G1, S and G2 phase. All these together collectively, this forms the interphase. And the last phase is M phase, where the actual cell division takes place. Okay, we'll see each of it. G0 phase, quiescence. G0 phase is the resting phase, and here the cell has left the cycle and has stopped dividing. In G0 phase, the cell is not dividing now, it is in the resting phase, and the cell cycle starts from this phase. The new cell cycle will start from this G0 phase. And many cells, such as epithelial cells, which do not enter into this G0 phase, and they continue to divide throughout the organism's life. So they will not enter into this G0 phase. Continuously they go on multiplying without entering into this G0 phase. The next phase is interphase. Interphase represents the phase between two M phases. So you can see here there is M phase, the phase between two M phases. One M phase has happened and the next M phase has to happen, and the phase between these two M phases will be interphase. Between two adjacent M phases is called interphase. Okay, so interphase includes a series of changes taking place in a newly formed cell. A newly formed cell, there will be a series of changes taking place and in its nucleus before it becomes capable of the cell division again. So a cell has multiplied, a cell has formed, and the cell grows through, and it becomes capable of multiplying. It is capable of cell division, the next cell division, during this interphase. So interphase makes it capable of cell division again. So this is a phase between two M phases, and it is also called preparatory phase. This phase makes the cell ready for next cell division. So this phase is preparatory phase. Interphase is preparatory phase. Okay, and this interphase is the longest part of the cell cycle. The longest part of the cell cycle is interphase. So interphase takes about 91% of the total time required for cell cycle. Majority of the time required for the cell cycle is taken by interphase. And during interphase, the cell will grow, and the nuclear DNA will be replicated. A copy of the DNA will be produced. A duplication of DNA happens. Two daughter cells will be prepared from this DNA. So during this interphase, cell will be growing, and then the DNA replication takes place, and it prepares the cell for dividing. Okay, so here it grows, then DNA replication takes place, a copy of the DNA is formed, and it is preparing for the cell division, mitosis. The next is in this interphase. The interphase itself, it consists of three stages, which include G1 phase, S phase, and G2 phase. Let's first discuss the G1 phase. This is the first growth phase. So it is the first phase within the interphase. It is the first phase within the interphase. And this phase starts from the end of the previous M phase. Start from the end of the previous M phase and until the beginning of the DNA synthesis. It extends till the DNA synthesis, the S phase. Okay, it is also called growth phase. This phase is called growth phase. During this phase, the cell size increases. The size of the cell increase. The cell prepare to divide during this phase. And during this phase, the cell increases its supply of proteins. It increases protein supply. It increases the number of organelles, such as mitochondria, ribosomes, etc. And it also grows in size. The cell grows in size, increases the protein supply, increases the number of organelles in it. All these happens during the G1 phase. The next is S phase. DNA replication takes place here. S phase occurs between G1 phase and G2 phase. So this is G1 and this is G2, and the S phase is here between the G1 phase and G2 phase. Okay, during this S phase, the cell synthesizes a complete copy of the DNA. Cell forms a complete copy of DNA in its nucleus. So there is DNA replication taking place, a multiplication, a copy of the DNA is being formed. Thus, during this phase, the amount of DNA in its cell is getting doubled. And G2 phase, growth, again this is again a growth phase. G2 phase occurs after DNA replication. It is taking place after DNA replication. And this is a period of protein synthesis, and rapid cell growth happens during G2 phase. And this phase prepares the cell for mitosis. It is preparing the cell for cell division. Okay, this is preparing it for mitosis phase. Yes, that's the cell division phase. During this phase, microtubules will begin to reorganize to form a spindle. Microtubules will reorganize to form a spindle, and this phase is otherwise called pre-prophase. Pre-prophase. This is here is prophase. Before prophase is pre-prophase. So this G2 phase can also be called pre-prophase. The next is mitotic phase. Chromosome separation takes place here. And M phase, mitotic phase or M phase, consists of nuclear division. Nuclear division takes place here. This is a short period of the cell cycle. This phase, M phase, is the short period of cell cycle. And the mitosis is the process by which the cell will separate its chromosomes in its nucleus and forms into two identical sets of nuclei. Two identical nuclei will be formed. The sequence of events that will happen here is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Here you can see prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase will happen. So you can see that here prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, and two identical cells, daughter cells, have been formed here. Let's see prophase. In prophase, the chromatin becomes tightly coiled, and the nuclear envelope will disappear. Here this phase, here nuclear envelope has disappeared. Okay, and chromatins has become tightly coiled up, and the centrioles has migrated to the opposite ends of the cell. Centrioles have migrated to the opposite ends, and this chromatids has become tightly coiled up. Okay, right. Next phase is metaphase. The chromatids align on the center of the mitotic spindle. The chromatids has aligned on the center of the mitotic spindle in the M phase, metaphase. Sorry. Then in the anaphase, the separated chromatids move towards the opposite spindle poles. Here, the separated uh, chromatids moving to the opposite spindle poles, opposite direction. Anaphase. In the anaphase, it is moving to the opposite spindle poles. Then the fourth one, telophase. In this phase, new nuclear envelope forms. Nuclear envelope is formed. Okay, and around each chromatids, and after this telophase, there will be a cytokinesis taking place, and this cytokinesis will lead to division of the cell into two identical cells. The splitting of the cytoplasm takes place. Intracellular organelles will split, will divide, and plasma membrane will divide, and leads to formation of two identical daughter cells. Similar type of daughter cells will be formed. So let's see a cytokinesis. This is the separation of all cell components taking place here. So mitosis is immediately followed by cytokinesis. So mitosis has happened, M phase has happened, and immediately it is followed by cytokinesis. And cytokinesis divides the nuclei, cytoplasm, organelles, and cell membrane of the cell to form two daughter cells. The newly formed daughter cells, new cells, will contain almost equal shares of all cell components. And the daughter cells will be genetically identical. Genes will be similar to each other, and it will be similar to that of the parent cell. This phase accounts for about 10% of the cell cycle. So that was all about the cell cycle, the cell division cycle, in which we have discussed about the various phases taking place in the cell cycle, in the cell division cycle, which include G0, G1, S phase, G2 phase, and M phase. Okay, thanks for watching.